You want to hear the goofy thing that happened to me like the other day? Well, it didn't even happen to me. Like, it's just I was listening to something and I thought
This
it was
didn't
goofy.
happen to me. This is a made-up story.
In the first aeon, I was the Great Spirit. In the second aeon, men knew me as the Horned God, Pangenitor, Panphage. In the third aeon, I was the Dark One, the Devil. In the fourth aeon, men knew me not, for I am the Hidden One. In the fifth aeon, I appeared before you as Baphomet, the god before all gods who shall endure to the end of the earth. In this new aeon, I appear to you as CMN.
Imagine that there is a brilliant white light just above.
Is commentary on the magic art.
In the years of the primal force and the dawn of terrestrial birth.
Oh, that was very educational.
Now magic will take place. Don't be fooled by what I just said.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I am Smosh Kennedy, and this is Chaos Magic News, where our retirement plan is World War III. Joining me this week is my ascended co-host, Markiplier Garvey. How you doing, Garvey?
Hello, my name is Markiplier Garvey, and this joke is just really for me. How are you today?
Oh, it's been a hell of a week. How about you?
Oh man, it's been one hell of a day, and we're only 2 hours into it.
Oh, Jesus.
We're recording. Recording 2 a.m.
Yeah, so expect a real low energy one this week, folks.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
We'll be
I think
funny. We'll be clever.
Yeah. When
we'll
are we
do
not?
Our thing.
When are we not funny and not clever? Except all of the other times where we weren't funny or clever.
Yeah, before, looks at the last 15 episodes. We'll get it right this time, folks.
Self-deprecating humor is such a bad look. We need to be overwhelmingly positive and braggadocious.
I think we do more than enough of that. I think the point of us being self-deprecating is that we know we're the best, and that's why our failures are something to laugh about. Because even though we're the best, we still ain't shit.
Wow, now that
I can make fun of myself because I'm great.
If anyone ever wanted to sum up what it's like being a good occultist, that would be it. I'm really good at this, and I still ain't shit. I should have learned welding or something.
Got this stupid astrology degree when I should have been welding.
Oh, boy. Now that's going to be a hot button issue. Okay. So we're going to jump right into our opening discussion this week, right?
Don't we always?
No, sometimes we meander at the beginning of the episode and just sort of get a little lost, and then I have a long pause, like...
Don't actually pause, please. Please, I'm begging you. I'm absolutely begging you. I will give you dollars.
Oh, boy. Okay. But no, so this week we wanted to talk about ideas in the occult sphere that are taken for granted, I think was the way that I described it, or ideas that are so ubiquitous that they're never really challenged.
Yeah. Things that we all kind of believe in the occult that we don't necessarily examine all the time, and it's a wide variety of them. I don't think any person believes every single one of these ideas we're going to talk about, but more than likely you have at least one somewhere, and if you don't,
well,
congrats, you won, I guess. Buy me a
you
soda.
Are what? Never mind.
It's that Mike Doty thing.
If Bono was here, what would you say to him? I'd say, go get me a soda.
That's a joke only for me.
This episode is only for me. There. Now you've got a title. So right off the bat, one that is just everywhere, right, is the chakra system.
Oh,
Like,
right.
and
Yeah.
we can first off we can talk about the 7 chakras, where it goes from root to crown, and there's the 5 in between, that sort of thing. That's everywhere, and people talk about various yogic practices, and they just bring those up like that is just the straightforward. Yeah, these are the thing, and they're definitely objectively real, and they definitely objectively function in this sort of way, where my heart chakra is this. And then you can even talk about like the rainbow color scheme that got imposed on it mostly by the West, and that completely fails to acknowledge that, like, I believe one of the earliest chakra systems that we have text for is a 5-point system. And then it also describes them as these are installations that you build within yourself rather than something that exists objectively. It's always that lovely term of prescriptive, not descriptive. There's other systems where 10 chakras, 100 chakras, 3 chakras, 94 chakras. You know, there's pick a number and there's probably a system.
Yeah, there are smaller ones too. There are things that have only like 3 chakras. The Tibetan Buddhism doesn't even get down so much on the chakra points as they do the 3 channels.
Yeah, well, if I remember, they talk about the various points being like the knots that are in the center channel happen because the right and the left channel bind around the central channel. Already there's you're getting into a very specific model of a model of a model, because it's like, all right, here's the description of points in this energetic subtle body. Well, all right, that makes the assumption that there is an energetic subtle body. That goes into the idea that like energetics and an energy model is valid and right off the bat. And I guess that's why I think it's such a good example, because to take the 7 chakras as they are brings a whole host of assumptions that largely go unchallenged.
Right.
You've now brought in a whole bunch of ideas that you're either not fully thinking through the implication of what belief you're using, or you have accepted a bunch of ideas completely with no discernment. I guess you're just saying like, oh well, yeah, chakras, yogic practices, yeah, that's fine, go, whatever. Yeah, that's the thing. I guess the problem is that, especially in chaos magic, no one ever really wants to go like, that's total, bullshit nonsense, but definitely nobody wants to go, hey, that's a bunch of total bullshit nonsense on something that is like an ancient tradition.
Chakras specifically get sort of like dragged in without any sort of discernment is because oftentimes people use them in a very limited sort of way, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes they attach them to other models and kind of make them sync up or something, but oftentimes it just is like a facet of meditation practice for people. So I guess in their mind that's like, oh, well, it doesn't have to affect my greater metaphysics or any of that nonsense. In fact, it doesn't really have to affect my practice beyond I use it for meditation type stuff and yoga. But then you can, like you said, you're still just grabbing an idea and accepting it and using it without any greater kind of discernment about why you would try this, especially like in the sense of being a chaos magician who has a meditation practice or something like that. Then there's literally no rules other than what are you attempting to do with it, and you
that's
can make
sort of
up
the
your
thing.
own chakra system like right now.
Yeah,
you have 174 chakras.
Well,
this is my pinky chakra.
Well, and ironically, that's where I was going to go. It's like, what if you just made the base assumption of like, all right, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to focus all of my attention on my fingertips for the entire duration of it. if you meditated on those long enough, would you start coming to the conclusion that there's like all the energy in the world is flowing out from my fingertips, or in from the universe into my fingertips? It's like, is that just a byproduct of intense focus on a single point of the body?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this to come across like we're talking ill of this, because I find lots of ideas incredibly useful. It's just you should sometimes unpack these ideas and really like strip them away and start taking looks at them and being like, what part of this is actually useful? Because if the idea is, oh, well, this is just part of my meditation practice, maybe you should ask yourself, like, is it necessary?
Right. And even ask yourself, what are you trying to do with it? Because in a certain sense, using the chakras as any aspect of your meditation should be for the sort of prescribed reasons in yogic text, which all tend to end up back somewhere of like realizing divinity or Brahma, or
at the very least installing these points as the thrones for deities, essentially, or divine energies. That's sort of thing.
Or raising the kundalini, as it were, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's another one.
But what would be the point of that if you weren't trying to accomplish that? If you have to, what are you actually? What does raising the kundalini actually mean for you as a chaos magician? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it just reaching the kind of void state of spare? Is it that you're going to have some sort of greater consciousness alteration of some kind? Like, what's it doing? And what are you actually trying to accomplish with it? So, like you said, you could very quickly do some testing and work on this stuff and see if it's actually going to get you anywhere. I mean, it might take you a while. That's the other thing, obviously, is that people take these really deep traditional systems and kind of grab them real quick without unpacking them either on a conceptual level or a practice level. But that's another story.
But I guess that's always the difference between, are you taking something and running with it because it's a tried and true method? So it's like the idea of like, I just need something that is going to work, or are you trying to be experimental and really get down to what is going on? And there's no wrong answer. If you're using meditation to get the described results of meditation, then go for it. If you're using meditation as a means to experiment with your, for lack of a better word, God, we say that so much. If you're doing it to experiment with your consciousness or your state of being for magical purposes, especially if you're a chaos magician, then there's a certain level of needing to do those sort of deprogramming, or those constant questionings of things that come across as
established.
Established is a great way of putting it.
The meditation and the yoga aspect leads me to my second big one. And a lot of people don't necessarily use this term for it, but it's the sort of yoga chara-ism of chaos magic and occultism in a greater sense.
Tell.
Oh, well, it's the mind-only school of Buddhism, as it were.
Oh, the Kabbalion. Everything is mental phenomena.
Yeah, everything is cognition and all of those sorts of things. When you actually realize what's going on here, it's all empty, shunyata, yada yada.
Well, I think the issue with that is that, by and large, people hear the everything is mental phenomena or everything is in your head. Like, that is the end of the discussion.
Right.
That's when you get into like these law of attraction type ideas where you think like, if I just change the way I think about things, everything's going to move itself around me. A lot of times it comes across as solipsism with extra steps.
Oh, definitely. Or just matrix fetishism stuff.
Yeah.
The best or the worst, depending.
Because on the Buddhist end, you have to get to the idea of it's all empty. Everything is empty without unconditioned quality. And for that, you have to have the proper view of emptiness. And that's incredibly hard.
Yeah, especially because Buddhism doesn't agree on it at all.
Yeah. And that's...
I'm a Tsongkhapa man myself. The other side of that, too, beyond the sort of lawn Milo, it's all in your head, but you just don't know how big your head is stuff too.
I was thinking of that quote this entire time.
Oh yeah, you got to. It's the easy one. But even beyond that, I think it affects so much, especially in chaos magic, because people love the idea and don't examine it in any real sense. And I think it's more so because, in their minds at least, it's not that it's an idea that's worth entertaining and using right from the gate because it's the antidote to materialism in a lot of people's mind.
You know what? Yeah, I'll
So much of it's associated with that already because the idea of thought forms and egregores relies really heavily on it in a lot of people's practices.
and we've talked about that before with the idea that I don't think because a lot of people think something really hard that it makes reality just turn on a dime, It's a lot there's so much more nuance to that sort of discussion. You don't create
I really hate it because it's like it's like some Marxists tried to explain reification to them and then they stopped paying attention and they're like, oh, I have a crazy occult idea from that wizard I talked to.
Absolutely. I think it is useful in the idea of the antidote to materialism is to understand how wobbly reality is. The reality that we experience is thanks to your nervous system, at least on I guess on a baseline, that all of your sensory expressions and your information processing is what's going on in your brain. Now, granted, if you were to rip your brain out from your body in a weird hypothetical, what would you lose? That sort of thing, brain in a jar type arguments. But we don't have anything to really go on there. We just know that all we experience is because of a certain developed type of meat that can handle electricity in a funny way.
On the other hand, I don't necessarily think that most people, even materialist, operate in that sense. Like that might be what they think if you ask them about it, but I think the Cartesian dualism of the mind being this entirely separate thing that's not even necessarily in the brain kind of permeates a lot of that. I think we operate in that way.
I would even go on a more baseline level that I think by and large, people that are materialists don't actually spend a whole lot of time in their body, if you know what I mean.
That's the unexamined, taken for granted idea of the non-occult, I suppose, too, right? The myth of the given, as Dreyfus used to call it.
I think another one that gets thrown around a lot is the notion of this sort of, and this is a somewhat of an extension of the everything's mind, but it's that panpsychism or pantheism, where it's the idea that consciousness is this ever permeating, the metaphor of the radio, where it's like consciousness is everywhere. It's just humans are like radios that are picking up the signal transmission.
Oh, right.
Or the notion of that pantheism of like God is in everything and everything is just an expression of one unified continuous being. And
okay.
These are not bad ideas. We are not bagging on these things. There are people who have done much more work than us that have been writing and studying these sort of things and documenting these experiences. And a lot of people come to these very similar conclusions. But I think it's always an interesting idea to try to flip that on its head. What if you were to make the assumption that consciousness is something that has to drag itself out from the sleeping god of matter? The idea that the Taoist ideas of building up the soul in life, or that sort of thing, of the Gnostic notions of like, well, yeah, if you have to actually build up your spiritual presence if you ever hope to escape this world. Otherwise, you're just going to be trapped within this world of matter. Maybe this notion of spirit as something that, like biology, is growing and changing and adapting, and it had to fight for its right to party. That could be an equally interesting idea that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot. Besides, even the examples that I'm using are not box standard, everywhere kind of discussions in these circles. And then the idea that God is in, and I meant that one's a little more prone to dualism of like, it's because sometimes you can kind of come to the idea of like either God is in everything or God is completely apart from the material. And that's just dualism. But another thing we take for granted is non-dualism. Everybody really, really wants to go like, no, there's no black, there's no white. Everything's just sort of a gray. And that's literally the gray fallacy. Maybe things look like things and things sound like things, but the fact is that things are things and things are not every other thing.
Right.
Well, I think it can be incredibly useful to take these ideas that are either not popularized or not talked about, or even just ones that exist as the antithesis to the commonly accepted ideas and then go with them, because you might find something useful. Robert Anton Wilson, in a lecture from, 40 something years ago, was talking about how he thought that the life extension science and that field of longevity and life extension were very interesting because there was creating different ways of thinking, especially at a time when every spiritual practice you could think about was about preparing the human being to die. What is Buddhism, Christianity, what do all of these religions, or Gnosticism, what are they preparing you to do? They're preparing you for your death. When you die, your soul has to be like this for the good thing to happen. But instead, what happens if you have to force people to live and say you need to be prepared to live and live longer than you ever imagined? You get different types of thinking.
Right. I agree completely. And that's the goal, I think, with what we're trying to point out here too, is that so many of these ideas are prevalent in the occult and go unquestioned either from long historical tradition or just a sort of natural antagonism to the what was the term we used in the DKMU episode last time? Consensus reality.
Yeah. Yep.
So many of these ideas just exist and get picked up by occultism more so than anybody because they're all about these sorts of alternative views. But then we fall into our patterns of taking those ideas and accepting them, and that becomes our new established reality. And it didn't come from any sort of experimentation. It didn't come from any sort of skepticism or philosophical inquiry by God.
It came from reading that goddamn Crowley book again.
Yeah, it came from someone on TikTok telling you that, do you know about this obscure book that I read? And it tells you that everything is mind. Ain't that a wild, crazy new idea? Ooh.
And there's tons of examples that are bigger and smaller in whatever direction, like astrology, for example. I have recently taken to trying to break myself out of any and all astrological associations when I'm trying to prepare or think about stuff, because I really didn't like astrology. Then I got really heavy into it because I needed to understand it. And I did some actual astrology magic and it worked pretty well. But I got too conditioned to think in those terms of like, well, where's Mars at? What season are we in?
It's Tuesday. That's Mars Day. Time to fight my boss.
That was the example I used too. It's like I got really tired of it being Tuesday and my brain going, we're supposed to fight. and I'm being super hyperbolic here, but I think that is part of what happens, is that especially when you become very conditioned in these types of patterns, you don't think as much, and then you stop thinking altogether, and your brain takes what could be a useful idea, what isn't necessarily a bad idea, but it makes so many shortcuts that it now becomes a bad idea.
Right, yeah. We're talking against developing magic heuristics, essentially. Stop trying to come up with fancy shortcuts because you read a lot of books that told you different things, and just because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little Gurdjieff. It's like, just wake up. You can't be alive and open to experience if you are finding new and exciting ways to sleepwalk.
Mm-hmm.
So, to our dear listeners, I have one challenge to you, one little antithesis to throw out at you, because it's a very common idea. Personally, I'm struggling with the opposite end of it right now. And maybe you can struggle with it too, and maybe we can all learn something by wrestling with the angel. Suffering, right? Very often, Buddhism in particular, the nature of suffering, the nature of existence is suffering. Or to a greater and lesser extent, Hinduism or even Christianity, a lot of these religions, any spiritual path in general can talk about the notion of like freeing yourself from suffering. And even ones that don't explicitly say we're going to free you from suffering, they talk about the idea of communing with the divine. And it's the idea that you're somehow going to pull yourself up above the muck and the mire of everything. And you're going to have bliss and ecstasy. And here's my question. Why is that a good thing? Why is getting away from suffering a good thing? If you woke up today and somebody said, hey, if you do this thing, you will have a life completely free of suffering and pain, would you do it? Could you imagine what your life would be like without that sort of thing? Without adversity, without a challenge?
We're going to go into bad places with that one.
You think so?
I'm holding my tongue on the nihilism of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to turn into the guy who's just sitting here telling everyone that their suffering is what makes their existence worthwhile, and without it.
So
that was a legitimately upsetting thought that you gave me.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, the idea of, I don't know, I guess my mental image of it was like, some scientist shows up with a pill and says, I've created a pill that destroys the part of your brain that makes you recoil and feel pain and shirk things that are unpleasant to you and stuff. So you'll just, it just, it gives me the heebie fucking jeebies.
But if Siddhartha comes down and says, hey, I know how to free you from suffering, you just have to, never fuck, don't do anything naughty, and sit on the floor a whole lot and meditate, everybody's like, oh man, this is fucking genius.
Yeah, and then
he just
the other
didn't
side
have a pill to give you.
Right, and then the other side of it is like, I'm standing here with Jesus telling you that, like, no, all the terrible things that happen to you are important. Trust me, bro. I promise you, when you die, it's gonna be you'll be like, man, this is all worth it.
Oh, you see, and that
or
goes
worse,
in another.
I'm standing over here with Jordan Peterson telling you that shit.
Well, on another end, like, because the Christians and stuff will tell you, like, well, if you just do the right thing in the face of all of this suffering, when you die, you won't have to suffer anymore at all.
Right, and that's the point, I suppose. Really, that's what makes Christianity shitty in this argument.
But I suppose that the problem is that what we're getting towards is the Luciferian end of it, aren't we? The idea that the adversity is the thing that makes you go.
I told you we were going to get into bad places with this, and we already had an opening discussion. We can't have another one, so we're going to cut it.
All right, here's the last one of where we're going to a really bad place. Carlos Castaneda. The normal man regards everything as a blessing or a curse. The warrior regards everything as a challenge. Cut all of this.
No.
They motherfuckers just brought up Don Juan, man.
You know what? We actually, we fucked up because we didn't talk about the most important one. And we gave it so much shit, but at least in a certain sense, I can say that, hey, they're trying something kind of different.
Scientology?
No, our old friends at the Society of the Disciples of the Dragon.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Okay. You see, we told ourselves actually that we were going to become based and Dragonpilled before the next episode came out.
Yep.
I don't think we've gotten there, but I have been striving in my day-to-day life to be completely Dragonpilled, as in I have stopped using my brain entirely.
Has anyone noticed?
No. And the tears start falling. But I have operated exclusively on instinct. I have wandered around in a desert. I've been eating bugs.
I've been talking
drinking
to the voices in my head, and they've been getting me to do all sorts of things that I absolutely hate.
Yeah, they keep saying things that I don't understand. I think the dragon is talking to me exclusively in Portuguese, but I can't use my brain to translate to
learn another
Portuguese.
language.
Yeah. So once again, listeners, forget all that other stuff we said about challenging ideas. What we really need you to do is get Dragonpilled with us and stop thinking. Listeners, your brain is a fuck.
Do a dragon about it.
12,000 dead cells. Bomb your frontal lobes. Dragonpilled.
Since I'm not thinking anymore, I'm just going to wander aimlessly into the next segment.
Well, is that when we're going to ask ourselves, what's in the news?
What is in the news indeed?
Is it a dragon?
No.
Is it a pill?
It's neither.
I need a look. I know we normally do our parrot with the earpiece headline of something silly that really isn't all that important. But I think going forward, when we do this segment, we need to have the Dragonpilled headline. Give me a headline that means I don't have to think.
You know what? I can do that for you.
Arguably, that's what a headline is for.
Since you want the stupid headline first, dogs living in Chernobyl have adapted with DNA mutation, studies suggest.
That's not a stupid headline. That's fucking lit.
It's from Vice, so it's really stupid.
Damn it. How about the headline of Vice got no money? They keep spending it all on. God damn it. We should maybe we should have a business model that doesn't involve spending thousands following drug dealers around and filming them.
Maybe we shouldn't give Action Bronson free reign to do whatever he wants.
No, that is a sound business decision. That's making them a lot of money. So we got mutant dogs in Chernobyl.
Yeah, looks like it.
And these fuckers tried to tell us that radiation wasn't going to give us superpowers.
They have increased DNA repair and immune response.
Yeah, so a Wolverine healing factor is what I'm hearing.
We literally have Wolverine dogs running through Chernobyl right now.
That's great. That means when nuclear war inevitably happens, we're actually going to have super mutants.
No, we're going to end up with furries.
Same thing. God, I wasn't prepared for that. It is actually always interesting how, in the strangest ways, life finds a way. No, for real. And it's fascinating that the great god Pan will not be stopped by something as
trivial as a nuclear explosion.
as nuclear devastation. Yeah.
Well, in nature not surviving very well, a terrifying fungal disease is infecting frogs in Africa.
Not the frogs.
Poor frogs.
No, I like frogs. Like everybody, if you haven't gotten the idea that I love frogs from listening to me, you are. But I also like fungus, so I'm torn. Stop Sophie-ing my choice. Epidemics like this happen. I'm sure the frogs will bounce back in whatever way they can manage. This fungus is always a fascinating type of existence. Like we always touch on the ideas of like animal types of consciousness, but very rarely do we talk about like vegetative types of consciousness, and we almost never talk about like fungoid type of consciousness.
Well, there's a certain subset of people that are really big on some fungal consciousness, but usually can't talk to them for the first couple hours.
You make my tummy sick.
Okay, here's one more like not a whole lot headline, just because we talked about the badass dogs, the poor frogs, and now we'll go back to nuclear. A nuclear power plant that leaked 400,000 gallons of radioactive water shuts down for repairs after second incident.
Wow. Those fish are going to be fucking massive.
They're going to be ripped, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to have tuna for days now. That's so good. All right. Yeah, I'm sure there will be no consequences to dumping large amounts of nuclear waste into the ocean. And I'm sure that no one is going to learn anything from this incident either.
Yeah. When the
They're gonna
dogs
be like-
grow gills, they'll be well fed though.
Of just thinking of like the somewhat wolf-like appearance of a whale's ancestors.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be like kind of like that. We're gonna have these beefy mutant whales that are just like, it doesn't matter. It's not important.
Do we want to talk about the big elephant in the room? The big orange elephant?
Was it at Chernobyl?
The
The elephant foot? That kills people.
A certain somebody said they were going to get arrested Tuesday.
A lot
it's
of people said they were going to get arrested. So everybody was like, man, it's like we're going to arrest him. I'm going to get arrested. I can't believe they're going to arrest him. And then nothing happens. It's almost like they just want to make you pay attention to crazy nonsense.
Yeah, it's like fucking
Does anyone
wild.
Tell me, does anyone believe that Donald Trump is actually going to be arrested for anything? If you do, please contact us. I have I have a bridge on an oceanfront property, and it's also a multi-level marketing opportunity. And like whatever else, I don't know. I'm gonna cure your boils. Fuck, it doesn't matter what I say. If you believe that you're
fucking gonna do it.
You've already cleared out your bank account to hand me your hard-earned cash. It's because I just said all of these. I said so many buzzwords that your tiny brain can't even handle it. And this is what we're talking about, that if you were Dragonpilled and you didn't think at all,
then you'd be buying my NFT right now. but you're fucking cringe. You with your fucking rationality.
No, I feel like if you didn't know, because the problem is that these people barely think, but they still think. If you didn't think, all of my words would roll across the smooth, wrinkleless apertures of your mind.
Yeah, presidents don't get arrested, folks. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. Not even the Trumper's going to get arrested.
No one's going to arrest Jimmy Carter for being an old bitch. You are wanted for crimes of being cringe, old man. You're gonna do 25 to life and piss.
Oh God. Yeah.
No one's gonna arrest no one is going to arrest a former president.
They
all
weren't
right?
even talking about arresting Nixon before he got pardoned.
Yeah, this is all smoke and mirrors. This is a fucking sham. It's not going to happen. I think at best we could say that this is an attempt to intimidate Trump into not running. And it's just not going to work. If he does get arrested, it'll be fucking insane. Like, do you guys have any idea how many hats I'm going to have to cut up and eat if he gets arrested?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems so incredibly unlikely that any of this would matter.
It's not on my bingo card. It's not even it wasn't even a choice. It's not even in the same room. It's not going to happen. And if you think it is, it's because you're deluded. I'm sorry. We're all deluded in certain ways, but you're clearly not paying attention to what's going on. If you think that a former president and you're like, oh, well, he did so many bad things. And it's like, well,
Reagan committed treason.
Yeah, exactly. He committed
Reagan
treason.
Did things that were actually bad.
I hate to say it like this, but do you guys remember that incident where Trump is at a rally where he talked about I could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and no one would care. They'd cheer for me. He's totally right. And you can be like, oh, well, that's abhorrent. Oh, well, that's awful. And it's like, yeah, he's the president. You're just describing what the president does.
Refer back to our Jimmy Carter fucking episode. We made our peace on this one already.
That's all I can say is that it would be funny. It'd be really funny if Donald Trump got arrested, especially for we'd
be eating those hats with a smile on our face, but I'm not expecting it. Shit's never that funny.
Yeah. And also it's over the hush money to a porn star thing again, which if that was going to blow up in his face, it would have happened during the 4 years that he was fucking president. You think they're going to get him now? No, I think this is smoke and mirrors.
And if all of that was not enough to dissuade you, just remember that this is the Dems doing it, and the Dems have never done anything right, ever. Yeah, even the only thing they've done right in the last 8 years, 8+ years, was screw over Bernie Sanders.
To use the shooting someone in the middle of Times Square's metaphor again, if that happened, the Democrats would still somehow fail to they would lose the gun, the footage would mysteriously get vanished, and
Joe
then
would walk up and think that he did it and apologize.
Yeah. And then they'd spend 3 months trying to pass a gun law bill that still wouldn't pass.
Yeah. And it'd be the most lackluster gun law ever. It would just be like Donnie has to check his gun to make sure it's not loaded first, and they'd still fuck it up.
While we're on it, do we want to talk about the other hysterical smoke and mirror show that's going on to keep you distracted from other shit that's probably more important and pressing?
Well, it depends what it is.
Joey Biden and Hunter taking all that money from the Chinese.
Oh, God. Ugh.
It's the same shit where it's like, I'm not even saying he didn't do it. Like, they've probably been doing it for decades. Nothing is going to come of it. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he did it. It doesn't matter if they're actively doing it. It doesn't matter that Hunter Biden
could shoot someone in the middle of Times Square and then put it on his laptop, and he still wouldn't go to jail.
Smoking a crack pipe at the same time. You guys just remember that laws are to keep us in line. The shit kicking rabble rousers are going to come around and throw you in the paddy wagon if you get out of line because you're just a working stiff.
Yeah.
You know, these
Shut
people
up and do your job, proletariat.
Yeah, exactly. Silence, horse. Get back to your plow. The fuckers up at the top. The law doesn't apply to them. It never has. It never will.
Right.
The
and
only
before
time
you
it ever
even go no, there's some. You can't just act like there's no form of law and order. We're talking about people that are presidents and children of presidents and
long-standing politicians and
the
people
owners
with
absurd of industry,
people with absurd amounts of wealth. All these things, these people face no consequences because they're in the handshake club.
Yeah,
you know?
this is it. It's always been like this.
These people don't go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread. They don't go to the DMV.
The only thing that's maybe different now is that our institutions have reached a point that we can't even fucking hide it anymore. They either can't be arsed to hide it or they're too incompetent to hide it. That's maybe the only difference at this point.
Yeah, now they're just flaunting it in your face because we don't, most people...
Or they're fucking stupid. They're either just being like, who fucking cares at this point? I'll do whatever I want and you'll fucking accept it. Or they're like, I'm sorry, the bag full of Chinese money. I mean, my big bag of money fell out again. I thought it was my classified documents. I mean...
What I'm hearing is that Joe Biden manufactured the COVID vaccine from a bat soup because the Chinese paid him, and it's all part of the Bill Gates vaccine conspiracy. And Donald Trump is going to save us by shooting a man in Times Square. And
that about sums it up.
And nothing is going to happen to either one of these men. They are going to die comfortably in their beds, surrounded by their family, with
high
loads
on crack.
of high on crack, with loads of idiots ready to suck their dick and say how great they were for the country on both ends of the spectrum.
And our third favorite presidential punching bag, well, not quite yet, and probably not at all, honestly. Ron DeSantis was totally being a cuck about a nickname that Trump gave him. It was pretty fucking funny.
Cuck DeSantis? Who's that it?
I love, Trump must have got someone to help him with this one. He's calling him de-sanctimonious now or something.
That motherfucker can't even spell sanctimonious. Are you kidding?
Yeah, right. He got asked by Piers Morgan if he liked Ron DeSanctimonious or Meatball Ron better. And he was just like, I mean, they're fine, whatever. Because he can't...
Meatball Ron.
Dude, Ron DeSantis is such a fucking bitch, man. He is totally bitch made. He could get the ice cream cone slapped out of his hand by Trump, and he'd say, "Thank you, sir."
It's
he knows
very
he knows where his fucking bread is buttered. He's like just he's so pathetic.
It's very Ted Cruz 2.0, right?
Oh yeah,
Where it's
he's
like,
doing the
I'll say
exact same shit.
I'll say shit about your mama, your wife, and say that your goatee makes you look like you came from the Star Trek mirror world, and he's just gonna be like, "Thank you, sir." Well, I respect our president. Now, let me go find a woman or a minority that I can talk down to so I can reassert my masculinity. Because I'm afraid of Big Daddy Trump.
Yeah, they're
You're a bunch of fucking pussies.
it's so bad. Like, I don't get it.
But they
like,
can't. If you're not a fan of the Republicans, Trump is really a silver lining, because basically anybody that won't fall in line and kiss that man's ass is in trouble.
Yeah, you'll end up getting pushed down the stairs like Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, that's what happened too. Marjorie Taylor Greene did it to him she was a Trump sleeper agent that her programming kicked in, and she just stuck her heels out.
Oh God, we're not even gonna talk about Mitch. Fuck him.
Fall down again, you old bitch. Fuck you.
Did
I hope
Mitch
I hope Mitch and Joe have a falling down the stairs competition. And at the bottom of the stairs is just the nuclear launch button. Do we want to have a magical implication of politicians falling face first down the stairs? I almost said chucking, which that's a violent act that I would not encourage. I'm not encouraging anybody to actually go out and like throw old men down the stairs. For legal purposes, I'm saying no one should do that. But if they happen to fall on their own,
yeah. We gave a bunch of political talk, so I guess the only thing we can go back to as far as any sort of feigning occult perspective here is just how easily manipulated people are, because they have preconceived notions about how the world works.
Yeah, and it can create a tribalist worldview. It can make you fall for this idea that there are certain people in power that are on your side, when historically that just isn't so. And even the fact that we're drawing attention to these things, saying, oh, this is all nonsense, smoke and mirrors, is arguably giving lip service to the problem, saying, hey, this is nonsense. You're still drawing attention to the nonsense. But at the same time, we're the funny Yuck Yuck podcast. We just talked about, Jimmy Carter going to prison for not being dragon-pilled.
Well, I think there is a power to satire still.
I don't know if this is satire. This is satire. Seems like it needs to have like some biting commentary or some real insight. I just think it would be very funny if somebody were to place banana peels on every step surrounding the Capitol and just let nature run its course.
Or let Joe run really fast going, look at that banana, I'm a monkey.
Joe Biden
and
doing
take
the
Mitch
Naruto.
with him again.
Joe Biden Naruto running full speed to get a banana.
Oh God. Okay.
Beep 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 beep. CNN breaking news.
Howdy, hey, it's Friday. We recorded this several days ago, and now we have to record this addendum because you all know what happened yesterday.
I believe I said something about cutting my hat in 3 pieces and eating it with hot sauce.
Okay. In our defense, he's been indicted. We don't know if anything's going to come of it.
I was having this conversation last night when I got the news. The problem is that every step of the way, I've been wrong. Where I didn't think the man was going to get elected. I didn't think the man was going to get elected. Once he got elected, it's like, well, he's not. Well, actually, the one thing I was right about was that when the impeachment happened, it was like, ain't no way he's going to get impeached. So I was right about that. But now I was going, oh, there's no way he's going to get indicted. And now he's been indicted. So what? Am I just going to go like, oh, well, there's no way he's going to get arrested. So for me to get to watch the first president ever be arrested?
Well, okay, I will totally be wrong.
Oh, well,
I will say it right
he's
now.
not going to get charged.
He's not going to get tackled by 17 police and tased.
It's not like he's going to make a huge scene trying to fight him and they're going to have to drag him away in restraints.
It's not like he's going to shit his pants as he gets hit with a moose tranquilizer so they can take him to a high security facility.
It's not like they're going to grab him and say, take him to the McConnell stairs. Donald J. Trump, we sentence you to the Biden-McConnell Stair Emporium, where you will be incarcerated.
Oh, man.
Well, no, but for real, I did not see this coming. I thought, ain't no fucking way.
I definitely thought he was going to get indicted, but I didn't think he was going to get led away in handcuffs or anything, and that hasn't happened yet. And I don't think anything's going to come of it. I think this is going to like just get into I don't even know what the legal proceedings are going to follow from this are, but I just don't see this resulting in anything major. Maybe he'll get like fined to shit. You know, that's nothing. It still sets a horrifying precedent for future presidents, and they're going to be fucked by this. It will lead to the eventual arrest of every president the minute they get out of office, or mass pardonings for the self every time they get out of office.
The problem is that he didn't get indicted for anything he did as part of his office, as far as my understanding. These are things that happened during his run, right?
From what I remember, yes.
Yeah, so like that was the other thing that I was talking to my beloved about it, where it's none of the things. This is a very Al Capone situation where it's like, all right, we can't get you on anything that you did while you were president or after you were president. So we're just gonna try to get you on literally anything, so that way we can keep you from running again. Because that's what this is. They don't.
Yeah, but there's nothing that says
Trump
that if
to run again.
There's nothing that says if he gets arrested, he can't run again.
I think there's a rule about
convictions. Eugene Debs ran for president from prison for years.
Oh yeah, I think you're probably right.
We might end up with the first president presiding from his prison cell, but there's nothing that says he can't run if he gets arrested. And an interesting little thing from Politico that just went up a little bit ago. The data's clear. The indictment makes Republicans like Trump more, which is, of course they fucking did.
Every time you struggle and try to do something against him, it only emboldens his base, because now he's a martyr to the cause.
Man, that's great. You can be a martyr without anything actually fucking happening to you. Man, sign me up.
I mean, that's been the whole spiel this whole time.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's very much, this feels like some Darby Dragons thing where it's like we're in uncharted waters at this point, where it's like the first former president in history being charged with anything. Like, I don't think they'd get Mr. Carter on jaywalking.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't get him on like hitting an orphan either. Like, he could just do anything.
Obama doesn't get speeding tickets, you know? It's like nothing.
Grant supposedly got a speeding ticket for driving his carriage too fast.
Well, he was probably drunk too, so that was probably the lesser of the two charges.
I can't remember who the hell I'm stealing this joke from. Maybe Chapo or something, but it was like, if they had a breathalyzer back then, he would have been the first one up with a DUI.
That's why they make people drive the president now.
Prosecutors in New York are preparing for Donald Trump's surrender to court officials after he became the first U.S. president to be charged with a crime. Again, not exactly true. Trump's lawyer says the former president will not be handcuffed for his court appearance next Tuesday. Joe Tacopina says Trump will plead not guilty to the charges, and they will aggressively challenge the legal viability of the case. Oh, God. Okay, and just so everyone knows, like, the real issue with this is that the payment was legal, but Trump allegedly recorded it as a business expense. Falsifying business records is illegal in New York. So there you go, guys. Like, that's what's actually happening here. This is just another fucking case of bullshit white collar crime that's not going to even do anything. Like, I mean, of course he's the president, but even if Donald Trump was not the president and he just got charged with this out of nowhere, the same thing is going to happen, other than the fact that people are going to be like, oh my God, he's the president.
It's like I said, it's some Al Capone stuff. I mean, I do not like Donald Trump. You know, that's not a controversial statement. You really shouldn't be surprised. When it comes to this, it's very much like, it's not who cares, because I guess on the baseline, it's like, yeah, that's fucked up. It's against the law, whatever.
What, cheating on your
it's
taxes?
Yeah, it's an Al Capone thing, man, where it's like they're just trying to get him with literally anything because nothing has been able to stick this guy. Regardless of your opinions on whether or not he was guilty, nothing has stuck to him thus far.
Well, and the other thing, though, is like, what's it fucking matter? If anything, this is doing them a disservice because it's making him more popular with Republicans, making him more likely to run again. And don't get it twisted, people.
Well, he's running again. Don't get it twisted. He's running again.
Well, I mean, don't get it twisted. He's still very likely to win the next election at this point.
Absolutely. And this is only going to make it worse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. It's like, what are these people fucking doing? Because you know this was not just some prosecutor thinking that he's doing the right thing or some shit. This was probably a coordinated political effort on someone's part. And whoever's fucking part it was is a fucking idiot, unless their idea was, oh, hey, let's get Trump reelected.
I personally think the Democrat opposition to Donald Trump are a bunch of paste-eating school children because they're just incredibly bad at this, unless you consider the possibility that what the Democrats want is to be losing. Like, they want to be losers because they can sit around and point and say, look how bad the Republicans are, donate money to us.
Or better yet, hey, we want to support basically all the same things the Republicans are doing anyway, but our base is built on the illusion of progressivism, so we have to just sit here and continually stymie our own efforts and make it look like we're such idiots that we can't accomplish anything, because if we have no real interest in pursuing any of these progressive actions. In fact, I will go ahead and say it now that the idea of progressivism of the Democratic Party is not that the Democratic Party actively pushes any of it. It's that they just latch on to any social progressive issue that they can see. It's entirely a fucking act.
Oh yeah, I mean, they'll do anything to try to get voters, but that's why we always talk about what the only thing that the Democrats ever really offer is that they're not Republicans, you know?
Yeah, that's their whole point.
I'm not going to get conspiratorial and say, oh, this is for the purposes of emboldening Trump so that he'll win. And then because the Democrats know that whoever they throw up against him is going to, if Biden runs again, it's going to be bad. I think I remember a poll where it's like 60% of Democratic voters say that Joe Biden shouldn't run again. And when they ask who should run in his place, the same, 60% are like, I don't know.
Like anybody?
Like literally
anybody?
Well, like literally anybody except for all of the options that we have, because it's like, I really don't want Warren or Harris or
Buttigieg or Kamala
or Buttigieg, yeah, or yeah,
fucking I don't know what's that,
or Sanders.
Well, I mean, I want. No, you know what? I'll lay it on the table.
Because you're a dirtbag. You're the dirtbag left.
I'm not even.
Shut up, Bernie, bro.
I have no desire to see President Bernie Sanders at this point. It's too little, too late.
He's too old to pee in his own pants.
It will destroy my illusions about the alternative world we had where Bernie Sanders managed to actually win. So let's just let them sleep and dogs lie, because I'm fairly certain if Bernie became president, I would immediately be disappointed.
I just think ultimately, if there is some sort of ulterior motive of and that's the thing, we could be wrong, because I was under the impression that somehow this was supposed to be used as leverage against Trump for the purposes of keeping him from running for president. But if that's just dead wrong, then all this is doing is you're just giving him more, you're making him cooler. Stop making him seem cooler to the Republicans. it's ultimately, I really do circle back to that thing of like all of the shitty things that I think he did are not what he's on trial for.
Right.
And in fact, most of the shitty things he did were perfectly legal.
Just to be completely honest, I don't care that he paid off anybody for sex, whatever. That's their prerogative. All the horrible things Trump did are just things that happen. Trump was just dumber about it. Trump, you know what the ultimate thing about Donald Trump is Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud.
I mean, I think that's what people said through most of his presidency. It's like he did the same bullshit that presidents do all the time. He just said it very loudly and then doubled down when people called him. And this is just an example, right? Like this is a hypothetical. It's like if Obama drone striked a U.S. civilian, right?
Yeah.
He would either hush up about it completely. He would act as if this was some sort of accident. He would perhaps, do something to try to mitigate blame and to try to show that either he wasn't directly responsible or he just wouldn't talk about it at all. But the Donald Trump response to drone striking a civilian would basically be, I did it. I would